Hey, welcome to our podcast today. Ask Aaron and Ask EJ. Our topic today, I should say, and this is Coach EJ the brand.
Oh, and this is Coach Aaron the Source.
I jumped out there. I was so excited about this, Aaron, because you and I have been talking about this forever. It's like, it's what drives us to want to continue to do what we do. I think it's what's keeping us in the game is about talking to athletes, and this subject today really is athlete ownership. Why aren't athletes owning their success, knowing their schedule, communicating to their coaches, being on time, owning their training, owning everything they do on their journey to be successful? Where is that at today? I'm asking you, Aaron. Where is athlete ownership today?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, owning the path to your success is key to your path to success.
Hey,
I mean, if you're not, if everyone else is more invested in your success than you are, there's a problem. And you guys might notice, those of you who have been listening to us for a while, that there's a reoccurring theme in a lot of our podcasts. And a lot of it comes back to taking ownership and taking responsibility for your athletic career
right.
because it's your career. No one has more invested in it than, or more, vested in it than you should. And, it's your ultimate success and happiness. So I'm really big on that. I think, athletes should be completely engaged in their athletics. And it bugs me to see just the little things. I mean, athletes walk into my gym, they're carrying nothing, but the mom or dad looks like a pack mule carrying their bag and their water bottle. And I'm like, what is this?
Yes.
A kid might be 8, 9 years old and his shoelaces are untied and he walks over to have his parents tie his shoes. I'm like, we don't do that here.
No.
Exactly. So kind of the doting of athletes, I think, doesn't serve them well in terms of, again, owning the process, owning what they're doing on a daily basis. Just the general housekeeping of being an athlete should be the athlete's duty, not the parents. So all of just those simple things that I talked about, they should be getting their gear together in the morning. They should be getting their sport drink or their protein together in the morning. They should be doing all of that stuff. That should not be done by the concierge of the house.
The concierge. Yes.
I'd say that all the time. It's like I'm not a weight butler. I'm not here to rack your weights after you're done. I'm not here to pick up your equipment or move your hoodie out the way. All of those little things, I think, start. And when you start to hold the athlete responsible at a young age for those things, then I think they start to get the message. I mean, how many parents out there have gotten in the car, maybe gotten halfway to a game or practice, and the kid says, "Oh, I forgot dot dot dot. My glove, my bat, my ball, my cleats, my pads." And then you've had to turn around and go back and get that stuff. I come from an era of, if we've gotten to a point of no return, my mom ain't turning around. She said, "You're gonna
Mm-mm.
have to figure it out when you get there." Oh well, if the coach is gonna yell at me, well, I guess you're in for a yelling. 'Cause, uh, yeah, I think those are the lessons that have to be learned. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, I'd have kids when I was at the high school, coaching at the high school and JC level, talk about they forgot their spikes. It's like, well, I guess you're running in your flats today. Or maybe you better, figure it out, borrow somebody's if they'll lend them to you. But I wasn't going to jump through hoops to go find a pair of spikes for the kid. These are the things that I think start to teach that personal responsibility, or i.e. ownership, and what people and what athletes are doing instead of giving them the easy out and the easy answer and doing things for them. So I think it starts there.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, about your story about your mother and hey, you forgot your stuff, well, your coach gonna yell at you. We don't allow our athletes to fail that way anymore, or people to
Mhm.
fail that way anymore. We just like, oh no, we gotta go do that because I don't want them to yell at you because it's gonna hurt your self-esteem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are we doing here, with that? I always I tell all our athletes or athletes that come through the door or see us or greet us or whatever the case being, are you really ready today?
Yeah.
You ready to compete today? And I think ownership comes with, are you ready in the moment, that time? Are you ready? And they don't own that enough for me. I'm gonna work it. Okay, we have a lesson. We're gonna work out today. And it's like, what is your mindset to really be ready to work out today? Because I'm really ready to coach today.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like I'm not going through the motions. I'm not like, I got to own my ability as a coach, my pedigree, my
Right.
experience. That means something to me. Um, and I think the ownership doesn't mean anything to these athletes sometimes. It's
Right.
like they don't think like that. Like, I'm trained today. I'm owning that. I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna get after it. I'm gonna be engaged for those 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour that I'm training.
Right.
That's all my attention is gonna be on, and I need to put forth my best effort to
Right.
be engaged. And I think a lot, Aaron, with ownership has a lot to do with engagement and their level of concentration.
Yeah.
And that leads to you really understanding that it has value. Ownership, there's value in ownership. And I
Right.
think when you don't treat it that way, you'll never own your training,
Right.
your performance, your success. And I feel it's important because I see a lot of young people and older people, athletes. Both you and I have athletes, that are younger and older. One of your guys who I respect a lot, Robert Stevenson, comes in and he's got ownership of
Right.
what he does. You see it in his work ethic and how he comes in and focuses. And, yeah, I don't know if people understand what ownership means, and that goes back to a lot of different podcasts we've talked about. But what does it mean to have ownership? I'm asking, what does it mean to have ownership in your training? You know,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Even just from a training standpoint, my thing is you're not gonna like every workout you do or every practice you do, but it is your responsibility to get the most out of that workout or that practice.
right, right,
And so that's taking ownership. And so many times I hear athletes, well, he didn't give me this type of training, or the coach didn't give me, enough reps at this, or I didn't,
right,
shots at this. And it's like, well, if that's the way you feel, then why didn't you communicate to your coach and say, hey, coach, can I have a couple more reps? Or why didn't you get back in line a couple of more times? Or why didn't you push yourself a little bit harder? Or maybe just ask the question to understand the purpose of the workout or the practice.
right, absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
it's things like that you've got to do. And it doesn't hurt to ask the why. And you may not necessarily quite understand that answer or maybe like it, but you can still say, okay, I've only got 6 runs today. God, I'd really like to have 8, but I'm going to make those 6 runs. I'm going to make the most out of those 6 runs.
okay,
So having that sort of mindset and approach, because everyone wants unlimited opportunities,
right,
and
man,
there aren't unlimited opportunities.
right, right.
Sometimes there's that one moment in time and that one opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to decide what you're going to do with it. I was watching God, it was I think it was on BT or something like it, but it was like black comedy and they talked to different actors and actresses, comedians and stuff, and they had Will Smith on there. And Will talked about how it was before he was a star, and he was at this party at Quincy Jones' house.
Okay.
And they were talking about, I guess, all these producers and film people were there, the studio head was there and everything. And I guess they were talking about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air script.
Mm-hmm.
And Quincy Jones basically at this dinner party or whatever it was said, "Hey, you're gonna audition for this part." And he said, "How much time you need?" And Will said, "Oh, maybe about 2 weeks." Right? And he says, everyone who can say yes to this project and say yes to you is in this room right now. Either you're going to let this opportunity go or you're going to
Right.
seize it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I think, at that point, he had to make a decision.
Right. Right.
And he said, "Give me 15 minutes." Got himself together in 15 minutes, did it, and then, he went on to get
The
this
part.
sitcom now. I don't know, went on for 12 years or whatever, but
Sure did.
most people know, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Right.
the sitcom. So I think you've always got to be ready to seize the moment.
Yeah.
And you've got to have the confidence, or at least be willing to try, whether you fail or not. But sometimes those once in a lifetime opportunities come once in a lifetime. And you have to you got to be brave enough to take it and have enough confidence in yourself to do it and take ownership in whether you succeed or whether you fail. And I think everyone is looking for, like I said, an infinite amount of opportunities to get better. You're not. The clock is always ticking. You're only going to have so many years of eligibility. You're only going to have so many competitions. You're only going to have so many races. You're going to have so many games. You're going to have so many at bats. And you got to have the mindset that I'm going to make the most of each one of these,
Mm. So,
regardless of whether you succeed or fail. That's still part of the journey. So, I mean, that's kind of the way, I see it,
right.
because I can tell you probably if you're a serious athlete or have been a serious athlete, the worst thing that you can have is regret.
Oh, absolutely.
It,
100%.
it, it,
Yeah.
that it always stings and it never goes away.
It never goes away. It burns, man, right?
Yeah.
It burns. Yeah.
And it could be 20, 30 years removed and it'll probably still burn.
Oh, it burns,
Yeah.
man.
I think in true athletes it does,
Yeah, it
those
burns,
with that
man.
true competitive spirit.
Oh yeah, man.
So,
It's in there. It's like
so whether it's, not pulling the trigger on a stock or
yeah.
not saying, hello to a girl you liked or,
Mhm.
not stepping up when, the coach asked for someone to volunteer for something or whatever it is. You've got to be willing to take that leap of faith, not opening that business, that you maybe thought you should have, but it's all about taking fate in your hands, taking fate.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed with athletes who I feel have ownership, they have this trait, of confidence, quiet confidence,
Mhm.
and a cockiness that is not a negative, but is a positive. And I think about these athletes across the board, and whether it's a different sport or athletes we train, there's that whole thing. So yeah, that was really good right there. I like that a lot. With that, I always ask that, trying to understand what athlete ownership really means. I think you hit it right on the head.
Yeah. I mean, I just think the blame begins and ends with you.
Mm,
And you can only, you can delegate that power to someone else over your career, And we kind of seen how that has panned out for some athletes, some for the better, some for the worse.
Yes.
But you're the one who's going to have to sit with it one day. So I'd rather, the mistakes that have been made be of my doing than of somebody else's.
Mhm.
So my advice is take ownership, educate yourself, try and make good choices, listen to those who have been there before. They've got the cheat codes. It doesn't have to be as hard as it is. Get out of your own way, listen to the experts, and but it's all on you.
Absolutely. It is on you. And you heard it from the brand today on the Ask Aaron and Ask EJ podcast.
Or the Ask EJ and Ask Aaron podcast. Either one. Either one of us
Just
can.
ask us, please. Ask us, and we'll give you our experience, knowledge, and lead you down a path that we think will be successful for you. So, with that said, hey, signing off today, Coach EJ, the brand.
Coach Aaron, the source. We'll see you.